Hello YouTube, I'm Dominique. I'm a recent integration of Jean and another alter who was formerly nameless. Today I'm going to talk about what you can do to be supportive when you meet a loved one's new alter. I am a DID system, dissociative identity disorder. DID is characterized by two or more distinct personality states that also have amnesia between each state. I wanted to make this video today because it's actually something that I've experienced, and it's something that can throw even, seasoned support people in my life, friends, family, whoever, for a loop. Because an alter will come out who may be unaware of current circumstances for any combination of reasons. They may be, a genuinely new split. They may only have the information that they've needed up to that point to process. Or they may be a dormant alter from a long time ago that hasn't fronted in a while, or that at least you've never met. In my personal lived experience, when a new alter comes out and introduces himself to a member of my support network, it can be because of a negative trigger, or it can also just be because the system is in a safe enough place and they feel like they can come up to the person that they're meeting even if they don't currently know the full context of our current life circumstance. For me, it's ranged anywhere from, like a scared, young trauma holder who believes they're still in a bad situation until they kind of settle and reacclimate. It can be a, teenager who remembers some friends from high school but doesn't remember other people that they're in the room with right then and there. It can be a protective alter of sorts who, maybe doesn't really know or trust my partner yet. Or it can be someone who's straight out of our inner world experience, which, if you haven't heard from our other videos, often amounts to metaphorical storytellings of events in our life. So, for example, there's alters in a place that we know as Willingworth. So, and in Willingworth, these alters are more likely to adhere to strict social conventions, have more, varying kinds of internalized phobia, that, homophobia, transphobia, that is directed towards self-hatred at themselves. And they might even be, completely unaware of our current life circumstances and even not really know how to do things like work modern technology. Think Cinderella, old-fashioned ballroom, that sort of deal. When people that we love and trust don't know how to respond to this, which, it's understandable, it's a pretty unique circumstance, it can make it hard for the supportive people to react in a way that doesn't just add to stress or confusion of the alter who already doesn't really know what's going on. But knowing what your loved one needs can just really make a huge difference in how you go forward in those situations, and it can really make a huge difference in letting them feel safe and helping them out in that, general initial acclimation process. When an alter comes around who had not really experienced the world, them, merging old experiences and learning new experiences out here is actually a very key component of integration, which doesn't have to mean fusing with the rest of the system, as in merging of all identities, just so much as becoming a more well-rounded individual in the system who has a healthy and balanced view of what a good relationship looks like and how to cope better when they feel like they're in a bad situation. Your loved one with a dissociative disorder is unique. They're their own person, and what works for one system may not work for another. I can talk all day about examples from my own life, my own recovery, and what's helped me, and even what's helped a couple of my friends or other loved ones that are systems that I've met along the way. However, what helped me or my friends may not help your friend. So keep that in mind. Essentially, this video is just going to give you some ideas of, what concerns may arise and some talking points that you should just discuss with the individual. And of course, when in doubt, or if you feel like they're unsafe, consult their mental health professionals. They know they know what's going on, better than some person making a generalized YouTube video. So ultimately, my advice boils down to ask your friend. If they're currently seeming like they're in that disoriented state, where they most likely have an alter out who's not really super aware of you, like who you are, or of the current life situations, where are they, when are they, things like that. That may not be the time to really start drilling with all these questions, but when you notice your friend is in a pretty lucid state, they seem pretty coherent, they seem to have a bit of context. If you can find a time like that, that would generally be the best time to bring that up. And of course, you know your friend best. Sit them down when you feel like they're seeming more aware than confused. And some people will benefit from we're going to sit down, we're going to have a formal check-in. And other people might benefit more from something a little more casual and just slide it in where you can. You might bring the conversation up and mention some other times that you've noticed, hey, there's been times where, if they know they have a system, you might say, your other alter hasn't known what's going on, or you can just say, I've noticed that it seems like maybe you're not sure what's going on. And the first question, and this one's pretty open-ended, is how would you like me to respond when that happens? And then some further question might be like, how would you like me to respond if the alter doesn't know who I am? How would you like me to respond if the alter doesn't know where I am or when it is? The bottom line there is they don't know when, where they are, who you are, anything like that. It's probably not anything to do with you. It's just them being from a very different point in time where their brain has compartmentalized that, where in heavier examples like this, they have genuinely no idea. Another thing that I might ask is, how would you like me to check in with you all when this happens? A new alter might be out for any combination of reasons. It can be stress or even new trauma causing a new split, or it can be an alter coming out of dormancy. Contrary to what a lot of people would probably think, not all alters are split from, one trauma, the chronic trauma, anything like that, just the one time in childhood. DID starts in childhood, but past that, a new alter can split for any combination of reasons generally related to extreme chronic stress or a different trauma being re-experienced. So even just things like really stressful, maybe loss of job, natural disaster, things like that can all make that happen. They might want you to stay with them as long as you remain cognizant of the fact that they don't know who you are, they don't know what's going on, and just don't expect them to figure that out magically. Or they might say, hey, please leave me alone right now. And that needs to be respected, as it does with any other boundary. Depending on context, you might be concerned about your loved one's safety. You don't know this alter, they don't know you, and it's really concerning sometimes if you're worried that that alter, for any combination of reasons, might be unsafe towards the body or just towards themselves. And in some cases, the person may just be having something funky going on and there's no real indicator of anything unsafe being a concern, or that might be a legitimate concern. If it's to that point, I would probably recommend getting in touch with a professional or a crisis hotline and discuss ways that you can check in and everyone can still maintain that healthy balance of boundaries and support, which of course can be harder than it seems when you're concerned for a loved one. And something that I and my partner have worked out generally with that is, checking in, are you okay, are you safe, something like that. Do you need anything? And sometimes you might even be able to establish, would it be okay if I check in with you 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour from now, see where you're at, something like that. And again, that's an example, and that depends on the individual. Another question you might want to bring up in your discussion with your friend is, how much would you like me to explain to them? Some alters, when you initially meet them, may be completely unaware of being an alter or of having DID. I had that experience a lot, pre-diagnosis and even post-diagnosis, where, say, the most frequent fronter knows about the body's diagnosis, but then an alter front who was from 5+ years ago before we got that diagnosis. That alter sometimes wouldn't know. And in the case of DID, these amnesiatic walls and barriers have built up in order to protect the individual from very painful memories. And it can be psychologically damaging to just dump all of this on them. You know, if your friend has a confused alter fronting who doesn't know why they're here, why they don't know who you are, you know, it can be tempting to just go, oh, well, you have dissociative identity disorder due to childhood trauma. Some people do want their friends to answer their questions 100% thoroughly and completely and honestly, and others will say, do not do that. I personally would not want a friend of mine, whether they have DID or not, to tell an alter of mine who doesn't know about the DID all of that, because they may not be ready. And they may ask questions that the friend is in an awkward position to answer. One of the ways I've worked that out personally is that I and a couple other alters kind of planned and wrote out a new alter orientation, and if that happens, you know, I have some loved ones that know where to find it, and I tell them, you know, if this alter fronts, this is what they can read, and say if you have any more questions, encourage them to respond back, whether writing it down or anything like that, so that it can be answered appropriately by another alter in the system, so that we can both foster our own communication internally, and so that we can have our own boundaries there with what we feel the alter is ready to know and what may be more of a bring it up in therapy sort of issue. Don't be afraid to say, you know, I am sorry, I don't know the answer to this thing that you're asking, but I am here for you, you are safe right now, and I am happy to help you, you know, communicate with some others who may be able to help you find out. And so just talk to your friend, your loved one who has dissociative disorder, figure out and work out a game plan for what they would like you to say. And some more tips. There may be childlike alters, and they might be very amnesiatic as well. They might be amnesiatic in the sense of they're completely trauma-free, they don't know what adult stress is like, anything like that. Or they might be completely traumatized and have no happy, healthy memories. And the best advice I have for that, depending on the situation, provide different kinds of care and opportunities. Some systems, some child alters would love to be comforted with teddy bears and candy, and others would be like, that's coddling, I don't want to be treated that way. And that really depends, again, on the individual. Either way, as long as you're maintaining healthy child and adult boundaries, given that the alter is, as far as their processing levels go, 100% a child at that point in time. Just talk to the system, talk to the alter, and see how they would like to be treated. If you need to take a little time to compose yourself, you know, this is an emotionally heavy situation, and it can be hard for anyone, especially if you have your own dissociative disorder or just trauma, or you're just overwhelmed. It's emotional, you know. That's okay. Take some time, compose yourself. It's so important that you take care of yourself too, as someone who loves somebody with this struggle. And it is so important that your own emotions and your own reactions are adjusted and balanced and at least as level-headed as they can be right now. Try to not make it about you. Don't ask the alter to switch back to another alter, and try not to get too overwhelmed about the ways that you should have protected them or the ways that you could have done better. Anything that will make the person have to turn the emotional situation back around. If an issue like that does need to be addressed, consider that now may not be the time, and put it away just for right now so that both of you are able to address the situation with a little bit more of a clear head. Keep in mind your loved one is accountable and responsible for their own actions. You might not get along with every alter in the exact same way that you get along with other alters in your loved one's system. However, There is a difference between slightly distrustful or withdrawn and being hurtful towards others. And if your loved one crosses that line, you are within every right to take every necessary boundary to protect yourself. Generally, people with dissociative disorders are more likely to be survivors again of more hurt and trauma. However, dissociative identity disorder and any other mental illness is never an excuse for causing more pain onto others. And honestly, this could be its own video, but that's the bottom line. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much for being there when your loved ones need you. Feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. I'm here in DMs, in comments, in whatever. Let's all get through this together.